Yeah, this is Billiam. Sometimes I ask myself, how did they make 5 live-action Scooby-Doo movies? Not Daphne and Fred making out of the mystery machine, not Scooby getting freaky and taking photos. How have I never seen this? For many my age, the first live-action Scooby-Doo is a classic kids film, becoming an essential part to Scooby-Doo's DNA.
Ray! That's me!
The first 2 live-action films, while not perfect, have an undeniable charm, much more energetic than the original cartoon, while still being oh so fashionably 2000s.
Like this pipe's ripping, Scoob!
Bringing Scooby-Doo into live-action always felt weird to me because if the gang were real, they would just be taking whimsy out of this world. Times Square would be free of bootleg characters. They would have unmasked those clowns back in 2016, and that little wizard who terrorized malls earlier this year. But I think the first 2 movies really hit the mark, yet somehow I missed the others. The ones made for TV and straight to DVD. Scooby-Doo was a menace to DVD players all around the world. There are like 50 different straight-to-video Scooby-Doo movies and endless releases of all the television shows. To so many, the live-action films were just another Scooby-Doo release amongst an endless stream.
Me and my homies solve mysteries through cartoons, movies, and tons of DVDs!
They made so many Scooby-Doo movies, they couldn't even book Scooby-Doo for all of them. So they made Daphne and Velma without Scooby-Doo, which never aired on TV. Why did they even make this? Though I concede, Velma karate chopping laser beams with her bare hands is absolute cinema. These films had less and less with each iteration. We've got 5 different movies to watch, so come on gang, we've got a mystery on our hands. What is this? Revisiting Scooby-Doo, released in June 2002, is so funny because critics hated this movie when it came out. I was 6 when I saw this movie, and when I was leaving the theater, Roger Ebert came right up to me, got in my face, and said this.
I'm completely unmoved by this film. There was no reason to make this movie. I don't understand it. I didn't get it. It wasn't funny. I didn't like it.
This movie is certified rotten on Roger Tomatoes, and the audience score isn't even good. Some top critic highlights. Scooby-Doo makes Stuart Little seem like Citizen Kane in comparison. Ruh-roh, something's really wrong with this rickshaw. Any thinking, reasoning human being with an appreciation for cinema would reject it as the vilest trash. Needless to say, it cracked me up the whole way.
Warner Brothers Pictures presents Fred.
I do think the first Scooby-Doo is the classic, but it's a very confused movie. It's one part children's flick and one part cynical, self-aware parody. It works for me, but I was also 6 when I first saw it, so this is normal behavior from Scooby-Doo for me.
Oh, fuck.
The opening sequence is probably the best, balancing everything this movie wanted to be. The Luna Ghost has kidnapped Daphne at Wow Wow Toy Factory. As a kid, I loved the Luna Ghost's design, and I was so disappointed to realize he was not the villain of the movie, but that's okay. The first joke implies the ghost is sexually harassing Daphne, so get that creep out of here.
Ghost keeps grabbing.
The casting is great and so self-aware. Sarah Michelle Gellar brings Buffy to Scooby-Doo, which is so fitting since Buffy and her gang of friends call themselves the Scoobies. Pretty boy Freddie Prinze Jr. brings a necessary flamboyant energy to the ascot-wearer Fred Jones.
Well, not to boast, but I can bench 220.
Checking himself out in the mirror while following the plan Velma had laid out to catch the monster. Like the only one doing work in a group project. Linda Cardellini brings sincerity to this character while also making it canon that Velma is hot. If any characters are played totally straight, it's Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. The ghost says boo and Scooby screams, so Shaggy tells him to be quiet before hitting us with the
Like there's a ghost right behind me, isn't there?
Matthew Lillard inhabited Shaggy so well that he's taken over for voicing the role in cartoons ever since the original voice actor Casey Kasem retired. Scooby and Shaggy are our Abbott and Costello. They rely on simple and physical humor, but they are very big shoes to fill. Scooby-Doo himself was a prime point of contention for critics who are becoming increasingly skeptical to an audience's ability to connect with CGI characters. But even Roger Ebert liked Scooby.
No, I like the first one. I think that is one of the worst.
Obviously, it's an animated character, and he looks like a silly freak, specifically on this poster. But they do a great job of incorporating him into the scenes. Scooby's voice was provided on set by stuntman Neil Fanning, who ended up recording the lines for the film along with the sequel. His only speaking roles, and he nails it. Shaggy and Scooby start running, spilling oil, and giving us the gosh dang In live action, Shaggy and Scooby run into a skateboard riding away because this movie is prime Y2K. The fashion, the humor, and the guest celebrities are Pamela Anderson and Sugar Ray. The Mystery Machine adopts a little bit of that 2000s Mario with a tribal tattoo flair. And Outkast recorded the film's theme song, but they were too afraid to cast Andre 3000 as every member of the gang. He's the only person who has the range for everyone. Scooby and Shaggy crash into the monster as their fans and reporters storm the building to watch them unmask him.
Oh, man, Smithers, the creepy janitor?
It's the height of their career, but Velma is tired of having the credit taken by Fred, and Daphne is tired of being the damsel in distress, so the gang breaks up, much to Scoob and Shag's dismay. But within 2 scenes, they're back together, because the owner of Spooky Island Theme Park and Resort, Emil Mondavarius, has tricked them all to come to solve a mystery and get the gang back together. All of the college kids who come to Spooky Island to party are turning into angry, zombified weirdos with super strength.
Carol, it's me. It's Brad.
What do you even say to that? You don't say anything, you just got your neck broke. Spooky Island is a character in itself. The theme park is created through these ghoulish CGI matte paintings. The goons at the party dancing under the skull disco ball is iconic, and if I had that disco ball in my home, I think I would finally be happy. But of course, fucking Velma can't help herself, pointing out all of the projectors and lights being used during a performance. Like, come on, dude, you're ruining the show for all of us. Get a hobby. I mean, another one. It's a show. Be entertained. We get the funniest joke in the whole movie when the bartender calls out for Mr. Do.
I got a call for a Mr. Do.
Melvin Do?
Scooby.
A voice tells Scooby there's a dubious bag of hamburgers in the jungle for him to eat, and without thinking, he goes right for the obvious trap. But he gets attacked by the ugliest thing I've ever seen. The virgin, unmarketable, pink CGI bunny demon, who are nothing compared to the sleek glow of the Chad Luna ghost. But you have to have the pink bunny demons for this one gag in the film. Scooby runs out of the jungle saying he's being chased, so Scooby looks over to see the coolest guy at the party. The pink bunny mascot costume. He starts partying and oh man, I need to go to Spooky Island right now. The gang splits up wanting to solve the mystery for themselves, but they all end up at the same broken down haunted house ride, running into each other like flies on a hot dog. There's a little guy backstage trying to turn on the ride and kill the gang, but Daphne ends up finding what they're hiding. An ancient pyramid relic inside a bigger pyramid inside this ride for some reason. Also, inside the ride is a soundstage dressed like a kitchen where we think Scooby and Shaggy might make a quadruple-decker impossible to eat sandwich or a really long sub. But instead, they just start burping and farting, trying to out-burp and out-fart each other.
Are you challenging me?
This isn't your dad's Scooby-Doo. Him and Shaggy barely eat anything in this film. I want to see the big sandwich.
You're in trouble. Oh boy.
Later in the night, everyone is in a common space and Velma is talking to this guy who I always forget is in this movie. She reminisces about when times were good, but then shares an awful memory. Scrappy-Doo.
Scrappy-Dappy-Doo!
Who pees on Daphne in the Mystery Machine, which Fred says is marking his territory.
It was an accident!
You were marking your territory.
You don't have the scrote for this job, Pally!
Implying that Scrappy has some sort of sexual attraction to Daphne, so they leave him on the side of the road. It's a scene that feels like a Family Guy cutaway if it wasn't somehow essential to solving this mystery. The rabbit demons attack all of the guests, including the gang, stealing their souls, taking over their bodies, and turning people evil, even musical guest Sugar Ray. They call the Coast Guard and holy shit, they're evil too. Shaggy's love interest, Mary Jane, who I totally neglected to mention. She's had her soul stolen too. Scooby is jealous, but Shaggy won't listen, so Scooby runs off only to fall into the hands of Mondavarius, in need of a pure soul to sacrifice.
Rack-ra-rise?
Meanwhile, Shaggy finds a bowl filled with everyone's souls and handpicks out the gang. But like, why didn't he set everyone free? He even picks out one guy and then puts him back. What an asshole. The gang's souls return to their body, ejecting the demons who burn up in the sun. But the gang's souls get all mixed up and they swap bodies.
I can look at myself naked.
Oh, brother.
By the way, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar got married after this movie, and they've stayed married ever since, so this joke is Christ approved. Their souls go back into their normal bodies before they try to infiltrate the soul sacrifice ceremony, where they're ultimately caught by an army of possessed college kids, all because Shaggy refused to save the people in the Soul Bowl. Anyways, they save Scooby before it's revealed Emil Mondavarius is a robot, a doubled, worn and controlled by Scooby-Doo's nephew, Scrappy-Doo, who set up this whole mystery to get revenge on the gang. Huh? So they defeat Scrappy after he turns into an all-powerful monster, Scrappy Rex, rescuing the real Mr. Bean, who is a real guy Scrappy kept underground. Daphne just beat up a pro wrestler to prove she's not a damsel, and for some reason she makes out with Fred at the end. Like, yeah, we all kind of assumed watching the cartoon, but like, they don't, like, that's not a part of this movie. So much of this movie makes no fucking sense. Earlier, Freddy and Velma find a brainwashing video, leading them to believe the haunted house ride is a brainwashing facility, which is why the college kids' behavior changes. But the college kids aren't brainwashed, they're possessed by demons. Who are they brainwashing? The demons act like the kids in the brainwashing video, so are they brainwashing the demons? To act like teenagers, but also to retain their demonic instinct to take over the world and take over people's bodies? Velma gives no clarification when recapping the mystery to the press.
Scrappy Cornelius Dew, who sadly was corrupted by the power of the Daemon Ritus.
This movie makes no fucking sense, but I saw it when I was 6 years old, so you. It's great. Scooby-Doo 2002 has a bit of an infamous behind-the-scenes story. It was greenlit to be a PG-13 movie and written by none other than James Gunn. But after a cut of the movie surprisingly received an R rating, some test screenings, and the PG-13 version of Josie and the Pussycats flopping at the box office, Warner Brothers reworked the movie into something marketed directly to kids. Though both the movie and the deleted scenes which were included on home video carry over some adult humor, like when Shaggy shows he's got an appetite for more than just food.
In a good kind of way.
Brother looked at a titty and said, but then they keep in scenes like when Velma questions why Freddy always splits up the gang only to go off with Daphne, the pretty girl, which leads to this awkward exchange.
Dorky chicks like you turn me on too.
And what's up with Velma's love interest? I forgot this character existed at all, because he's literally an afterthought. Originally, Velma was written to be gay, then to have a kiss with Daphne, but executives cut it all. Now we have this fucking guy, who I believe wasn't cut out of the film entirely, specifically because Velma sets up the Scrappy-Doo reveal while talking to him. They got stuck with him. He's literally credited as Velma's friend. They got stuck with this useless, nameless character so they could do a vile thing. Ladies and gentlemen, my special interest. Let's get a big title on screen that reads Scooby-Doo 2002 and the character assassination of Scrappy-Doo, a video essay. A quick little aside. Scooby-Doo is such a saturated property today, but back in the 90s, there was essentially a hiatus for the franchise after Warner Brothers purchased Hanna-Barbera. 2002 didn't only see the release of this film, but What's New Scooby-Doo, the first Scooby-Doo cartoon to adhere to the original formula since 1978. It was a time where Scooby-Doo was relishing in a return to form without the annoying presence of Scooby's little nephew, Scrappy-Doo.
Like, I think we lost him.
Don't worry, guys. I found him for you.
Who was quickly becoming the butt of jokes for bitter and nostalgic Gen Xers.
Can I help you?
Oh, easy there, Scooby.
My name is Scrappy, and I've been here longer than all of you. Longer than you, and you!
Velma says the gang kicked Scrappy out, but that's not how it went down. I watched every episode with Scrappy-Doo, and that's not how it went down at all. It was the gang that left behind Shaggy, Scrappy, and Scooby. And while Daphne came crawling back, it was Fred and Velma left on the side of the road. The Scrappy-Doo twist in this movie is so forced, and it neglects the final cut of the film and who they were marketing towards, the children, who were not in on the meta joke that Scrappy-Doo sucked. The joke was lost on me. I literally thought I missed an episode of Scooby-Doo or something, like, when did Scooby start hating Scrappy? his nephew, his flesh and bone. Both of the movie commentaries tell a story of Scrappy being a later addition, with the scenes of the gang kicking him out of the van being the very last thing they shot as a group. Scooby-Doo content king Scott from Nerdsync has a great short explaining how the Game Boy Advance game actually retains another villain for the final boss. It's this demonic entity, a master planner who would have had a much clearer connection to the demon rabbits, who are totally unrelated to Scrappy. The demons are gonna take over the world. How does that benefit Scrappy-Doo? It doesn't. Scrappy-Doo doesn't belong in this movie, and he doesn't belong on the side of the road. But James Gunn wanted him dead. In an interview with Fanboy Planet leading up to the release of the movie, James Gunn, the apparent animal lover, said this about Scrappy when asked. I can tell you I hate that little motherfucker with all my heart and soul. Huh. The movie may have been a smash hit, but with Scrappy-Doo, who I'm treating real, being villainized ever since, we have to ask, at what cost? And then, they're still repeating this same joke 20 years later with Velma bringing back Scrappy-Doo, only to villainize him again.
This is the last Saturday morning you'll ever ruin!
Bro, how old do you have to be if Scrappy-Doo ruined your Saturday mornings? He debuted in 1979. I'm 28, and Scrappy-Doo was always subjected to weekdays. I only ever saw him when I was homesick from school. He healed me, and he's hated for it. You know who else healed and was hated for it? Jesus Christ. What I'm trying to say is, if Scrappy-Doo ruined your Saturday mornings, you need to stop complaining about Scrappy-Doo and go spend some time with your children. Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
Monsters are taking over, and now there's only one thing to do.
And it's a much easier film to talk about. The sequel is much more of a loud, celebratory homage to everything Scooby-Doo, albeit with that 2000s pizzazz. You couldn't do that today. Or in 1969. This was literally made at the only time in history it possibly could have been made. Monsters Unleashed brings to life a gaggle of classic Scooby-Doo ghosts, ghouls, and goblins, including the 10,000-volt ghost, Captain Cutler, and Scooby's first foe, the Black Knight Ghost.
Black Knight Ghost!
The movie goes all in on bringing this animated universe to life. They have Shaggy hitting the minor 49er with one moment before zipping off with super speed. This isn't your 2002 Scooby-Doo. After a string of successful mysteries, a new masked villain robs the Coolsville Coulsonian Museum of their recently acquired collection of monster costumes, once belonging to Mystery Inc.'s greatest foes, stealing the costumes to turn them into real monsters. The gang's failure to stop the robbery turns Coolsville against them, while Shaggy and Scooby go off on their own to prove that they too are key players. The lead villain is fucking lame, just some guy in a black coat and a mask.
This time, you'll be the ones unmasked.
What is that? It's the end of.
Yet so many classics appear, if only for a quick cameo, and so many more were created. YouTubers Jaybee and Milly interviewed Peter Crossman, the visual effects supervisor of the film, who shared screen tests of tons of the monsters they designed, even those that were cut, which makes me understand just how underutilized these monsters were in the film. These costumes look amazing. They even got one for the Creeper, who's not in the movie. That's like Scooby-Doo's The Joker. The one-eyed skeleton men get the biggest overhaul of any monsters.
Skeleton men?
No monster was more obviously a guy in a costume than the Skeleton Men. Look at these guys. Who are they fooling besides Shaggy and Scooby? The big mystery in the movie surrounds the disappearance of one of their old villains, Dr. Jonathan Jacobo, the pterodactyl ghost who is presumed dead. He was a regular guy originally, and his name is Johnny, not Jonathan. But in this version, Jacobo was trying to make real monsters using randomonium, and now someone is believed to be continuing his work.
This is Johnny, owner of a catering truck.
Another disappointingly underutilized element in this film is Scooby and Shaggy going undercover to investigate this whole seedy underworld of criminals they've caught, like the regular guys after they unmask the monster.
He used to dress up as Redbeard's ghost. It's Aggie Wilkins.
Hey, Kay, the Ozark Witch.
They all meet at a secret dive bar to connect on their hate of the Scooby-Doo gang. I just think exploring these nutty people who dress up as monsters and go around scaring people is just too good of an idea for how little they use it. And the best joke involving them was deleted.
The only way you get cred is by dressing up as a terrifying creature and scaring the crud out of innocent people. Obviously.
The cast gives another great outing as the gang, with Lillard cranking up his Shaggy energy a whole lot.
An actual clue!
I might prefer his performance in the first film, but he's still great. Velma is worried she's not pretty enough to have a boyfriend, probably because Daphne said this to her.
Well, is it our fault you wore high heels on a hiking trip? At least I try to look feminine.
She's trying to impress Seth Green, who plays the suspicious museum curator. She dresses in a latex suit and slaps him with the
"Who's your mommy?"
Oh my god, this is big news.
My mommy?
My daddy and my mommy.
I do experience pure joy when they superimpose Scooby-Doo's head on a person for a choreographed dance sequence, but both of these movies suffer from the 2000s kid movie humor plague. Back then, comedy movies used to needle drop "I like big butts," and it was the funniest thing people ever saw. And they were right to think so. Scooby continues to fart more in these two movies than the rest of the franchise combined. Velma has to calculate the Black Knight's weak spot, revealing it to be the groin. She kicks him, and he says,
"Right in the round tables."
And I can't help but to think they were really cooking during this era. These movies have so many slapstick gags in them, it's hard not just to sit back and watch them unfold. There's this great recurring joke with Fred giving a journalist horrible pull quotes.
You're trying to make it look like I think Coolsville sucks. No!
Daphne tries to tell him not to talk to the press, but he can't help himself.
All Fred Jones had to say was,
I think Coolsville sucks.
The movie taking place in Coolsville and references to Chickenstein puts this movie in the same world as a pup named Scooby-Doo, and we even flash back to the treehouse from that show. The body transformation sequence is permanently ingrained in my mind. Scooby becomes a slug, Shaggy gets massive knockers. Scooby turns into the Tasmanian devil, Shaggy becomes real buff, and Scooby tries to stop their rapid transformations when he becomes Albert Einstein. It's so fucking chaotic.
Check out my pecs, little man.
So it turns out Dr. Jacobo is behind it all, having escaped prison and framing Old Man Wickles, the original Black Knight ghost, after a feud in jail. Jacobo dresses up not only as the masked figure, but as the pretty reporter who is trashing the gang on TV, all to get revenge on the Scooby-Doo gang. I find it hard to say which of these movies is better than the other, but I absolutely believe Scooby and Shaggy learning to become more sure of themselves is a better cinematic journey for Scooby-Doo than the gang splitting up and getting back together again. But what I do know is if you look like this or this, you need to call me. You know, I bet the rent price tag on Mystery Inc.'s sweet pad in the sequel was astronomical. I can't even imagine the kind of points they'd be accumulating if they were using today's sponsor, Built. Built is a loyalty program that lets you earn points on rent and around your neighborhood. And there's so much you can do with Built points. They've been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy in Bankrate, and they're designed to fit your everyday lifestyle. You can redeem them for flights and hotels, workout classes, and even towards your next month's rent payment. Y'all, I pay rent. Paying rent sucks. I don't know when I'm gonna stop paying rent, if ever. The last 2 months, I've had an heir paying my rent through my bank, and so I had to go withdraw my rent in cash. I held my entire rent in my hand in $20 bills, in $100 bills, and oh my god, was it heart-wrenching to turn it over. Paying rent sucks. Built makes it feel better. When you pay your rent through Built, you get access to exclusive benefits through Built partners, like transfer bonuses with airlines, status matches at hotels, and complimentary add-ons to some of your favorite fitness studios. Say hello to VIP status around your neighborhood and when you travel. Start earning points right now when you sign up through my link in the description or by using the QR code, and make sure to use my URL so they know I sent you. Thanks again to Built for sponsoring this video.
Follow 9.
The meddling begins.
While no sequel was made with the original cast, Cartoon Network would air an origin story with a new group of actors, Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins. Airing in September of 2009 and garnering over 5 million viewers, this is the most viewed single program Cartoon Network ever made.
Now introducing the new and improved Velma Dinkley. Jinkies.
With the younger cast, The Mystery Begins focuses mostly on Shaggy, who has no friends at Coolsville High. He lands into the principal's office, who tells Shaggy everyone can tell he has no friends and that he needs a hobby, like his beloved stamp collecting.
It's a misprint. Those are the most valuable.
Okay, this guy's the monster. I have no idea why or how or what the monster even looks like yet, but it has something to do with stamp collecting, and it's him. These movies have a vibe. Scooby-Doo is just a vibe. Shaggy would look like he's 26 if he didn't get on that school bus so confidently. Fred sits back and watches every day as his friends trip Shaggy and laugh at him. So Shaggy sits next to Velma, but he can't stand her nerd talk as she's working on some wacky device.
They scoffed Oppenheimer too, you know.
What is with live action Velma and making instruments of death? She said this in the first movie.
I've been working at NASA, developing hydro-powered missile defense systems.
So he sits next to Daphne, memorizing her lines for the school play because she's an actor in this one. But she wants nothing to do with him when he offers her a bite of his peanut butter and sardine sandwich. Yeah, that's a psychotic flavor combination. Am I the only one who has never laughed at like a gross food joke in something? Is that just me? Meanwhile, Scooby-Doo is a one-of-a-kind talking dog up for adoption, but no one is enamored by the pure wonder of his existence. And he is selling himself hard. And then the pound lets him fall off of a truck where he runs away, sees some ghosts, and rolls his way into Shaggy's bedroom, where the two instantly become best pals. And that's how the mystery began in a universe where Coolsville is in Ohio. That's real. That's a detail in the movie. So Shaggy tries to bring Scooby to school, putting him in the most raw as disguise Scooby has ever dude.
Nice look.
He bites the bully, who pushes Shaggy over, starting a fight and causing the bus driver to crash the bus. And the vice principal blames the children, not the bus driver. They all get detention where the gang bonds over a shared love of mystery novels. A very cute detail. Suddenly, a storm descends on the school, a magic book appears, and ghosts start mucking up the pep rally, taking place at the very same time. Once again, the vice principal blames the gang because they were in detention together unsupervised. They're suspended now, so the gang teams up to clear their name and solve the mystery of the ghosts Scooby-Doo smelled that night before he met Shaggy, and the ghosts came back and ruined the school. I like the ghosts. I think they're charming and right out of the Goosebumps TV show. But the big bad, the specter who controls the ghost, is once again just a guy in a cloak and a pale mask.
It's the end of.
The cast does okay. Shaggy and Velma are the standouts, but Haley Kiyoko as Velma feels like a cringe, nerdy TikTok kid, and I mean that in like the sincerest form of flattery. The cringe TikTok kids are very funny. It's like a whole genre now. She was innovative, and I love her Velma.
Oh, Velma, you really don't...
Let her go, man.
But Shaggy at times feels like a 26-year-old man because his voice is so stressed.
Like, all right, I got held back twice.
And boy, does Shaggy have a lot of lines. I totally missed the explanation of how the Spectre controls the ghosts through the magic book because my brain had to go somewhere else. But I want to give the kid a chance.
But I just got my license last month and I'm having a hard time concentrating. Get it together, man. The state of Ohio issued you a license.
They needed to give Fred a blonde wig. I don't care how cheesy they thought it looked. It's fucking Scooby-Doo. Who looks his TV budget? He's janky and barely interacts with the rest of the gang, often on a blank slate by himself or animated into the background eating a bug or waxing a car, pulling focus away from the scene. But my best to the actors because they had some terrifying stand-ins for Scooby-Doo. That is a monster. There's one scene where Scooby is a puppet underneath a blanket and it looks like he's going down on the Shagster. Swanks. The most Scooby-Doo the movie feels is in the final set piece in which the gang goes underneath the school to investigate the old school which was destroyed by a flood.
For Scooby!
There they catch the Spectre looking for an old time capsule because he's the principal.
Principal Deal!
You ruined everything.
Who blew up the school and raised the dead to find an old stamp. This is the kind of freak that belongs in the Scooby-Doo world. I just wish he didn't get arrested for pursuing his hobbies. The gang has a well now what moment before we get a cool montage where they paint the mystery machine, a van provided by Daphne's rich family. Because oh my god, is this mystery about to begin. I was 13 when this movie came out, so I was the perfect age to see a trailer for this and totally dismiss it because it wasn't what I remembered from when I was younger.
Too old school.
I avoided it back then, but as an adult, it really is just a Scooby-Doo release that disappears in a whole sea of them. A follow-up film, Scooby-Doo, The Curse of the Lake Monster, aired just a year later.
The lake monster will return! The lake monster will return!
Summer has just started and the gang is looking forward to having seasonal jobs, working for Daphne's uncle at his failing country club. Clientele are dwindling due to a crazy frog monster terrorizing the grounds. The gang discovers an old ghost witch is rumored to be behind the frog monster, and they discover feelings for each other? Ruh-roh.
Like her?
What the hell? Fred and Daphne are straight up making out on the mystery machine. They're in love with each other?
Are you okay?
I am now.
It's Scooby-Doo does High School Musical 2, and yes, they're singing.
We'll be cuddling soon.
It's a good thing. When Shaggy smells Velma, my guy starts floating like a delicious pies on the windowsill. They do the big sandwich gag, but Shaggy's appetite is for something else.
I could listen to you talk like that for hours.
But in the last film, he switches seats on the bus when Velma is nerding out. Now he loves it. Even Velma thinks this is strange behavior.
Are you really interested in this stuff, Shaggy? Never really known you to be, well, intellectually curious.
Meanwhile, Fred thinks his relationship with Daphne isn't serious, and they try to make each other jealous by flirting with other people. I think it's really fun to play with the personal relationships of the gang, but typically I think bringing in somebody else is the better angle. Inner gang flirting can be fun, but it's a dangerous sport.
I'm just so glad that we're on the same page.
Stop it, Shaggy. I'm not stupid. Are you cheating on me?
Shaggy asks Scooby if he thinks Velma might like him back, and Scooby laughs in his face. He ridicules him. This is a new Scooby. What's his problem? Scooby-Doo has an intrinsic charm that carries through its worst media. It's like oatmeal that way. But if anyone is a stick in the mud, it's the guy playing Fred. Behind the scenes, he just seems like he is so uncomfortable being in this world. And I gotta say, it reads.
I can't say gang anymore. I just get ripped apart by my friends because they're like, yeah, thanks, Fred.
Fred dressed like a crazy person. Fred doesn't frolic. I don't know what I'm gonna do on this. I mean, look at that.
The big frog looks awful, but I totally f with him. It's like the Loveland frog, which is a part of Ohio folklore. They were just afraid to give him a little wand. The Loveland frog is usually depicted with a little wand. The frog interrupts a club party and chokes Daphne's uncle.
I don't recall having seen your name on the guest list.
That might be the best part of the whole movie. Also, what's up with this actor like,
thank you. Now one more.
That happens. They included it in the montage. According to the lore, a witch made the frog with a moonstone, which Velma finds on the beach, turning her into said witch, much to the shock of the gang. Shaggy believes his love for Velma will cure her.
I'll try.
No, you won't!
And with the power of song, it does.
Not the sun, but the moon.
I want to spoon. No!
They beat the witch and Velma tells Shaggy, just kiss me already. Daphne and Fred, shirtless, ripped as hell by the way, just sit back and watch, and then the entire gang realizes the dangers of inner gang dating.
I don't know too much about chemistry.
I do. There just wasn't any.
And they decide they should all just stay friends. And Daphne's uncle gives them $10,000 to incorporate.
Say that again?
Their little mystery business.
You guys, I've got it. We could be Mystery
Incorporated. Beginning the mystery even harder. They leave Scooby out of a group photo, so he jumps out of a second-story window. But Shaggy catches him because what they have is true love. I don't think it's necessarily a major improvement over the first, but the musical interludes are so fun. The movie opens with Shaggy dreaming of a perfect summer vacation. Shaggy and Velma sing an old vaudeville ditty together, which transforms into a punk rendition.
One, see new, act two, me you.
And then the movie ends with a musical sequence that's the best part of either of these movies, featuring a faux 60s hippie anthem, I Can Be Scared With You, complete with wardrobe, before ending in holy shit. It keeps going, transitioning into a funk rendition of the song, complete with rollerblade choreography and a 90s style rap in front of a graffiti wall where the gang all swap costumes except for Fred, who just gets a blonde wig, which he should have had for the whole movie.
As old school goes, we're genuine, we've been kicking it since 1969.
Whatever you think of these two movies, hold on to it, because apparently Netflix is making a live-action Scooby-Doo series. I hope it goes well. I can't imagine it will. Regardless, live-action Scooby-Doo is best when Scooby is really there. All right, now it's time for the most boring piece of Scooby-Doo media ever made, 2018's Daphne and Velma, a movie which doesn't feel real. I love the Scooby-Doo gang, maybe even more than the dog himself, but the gang is totally flavorless without the dog.
Turn up the beat. All right, let's do this.
This movie was produced by Ashley Tisdale's production company, Blondie Productions, and in another world, it was a well-liked DCOM that had nothing to do with Scooby-Doo. Instead, it's trapped in IP hell. It's marketed as a prequel to Scooby-Doo, the story of how Daphne and Velma became IRL friends. You see, Daphne runs a live stream about aliens and ghosts, and Velma calls in after every episode to personally debunk her bullshit. They're best friends. But when Daphne moves to Velma's hometown and starts attending the same school, she finds Velma is a wildly antisocial and difficult person. But they have to put their differences aside to solve the mystery of the students who disappear in mysterious lockers, only to emerge as husks of their former selves.
I'm good.
At Bloom Valley High, every student has access to the latest tech, phones, and smart t-shirts and hoverboards, but every student is also publicly ranked on a leaderboard and is followed around by drones carrying sad clouds when they behave poorly. It's a dystopia. The beginning drags on with commercials for the high school and Daphne's awkward morning routine and first day of school.
Hey, turn on my pump up playlist.
She opens her smart closet, which has an outfit ready for her, guesses what her dad made for breakfast, and gets sushi in the lunch line, which freaks out the other students for some reason.
Just saw it in the line.
It lines up with everything we know about the school. Why is this scene in here? Well, it turns out all of these weird details are purposeful. Joke's on me, a 28-year-old who says he's already 30. So Daphne's dad, played by Brian Stepanek, was on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody with Tisdale. And as Daphne's father, he's been following her around her whole life, acting as a fake AI voice assistant, putting better food for her in the lunch line, and essentially making sure she never has a bad experience ever.
Turn up the beat.
It's psychotic. Daphne's closet reminds me of London Tipton's closet from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And this movie revealing that it's not a smart closet at all, but rather something her dad is doing behind the scenes, feels like a joke that Tisdale might find funny because she personally was watching people behind the scenes like make the closet come to life. And there's a cleverness to the idea. It's like an extreme helicopter parent. But the execution ruins the entire opening of the movie. Their phones collect their personal data for everyone else to access freely. It works like a Pokédex. You can point your phone at anyone and learn about them, and everyone finds it weird that Velma opted out of this. I would too. But they're mostly weirded out that Velma's like a psycho. She stomps onto the school grounds, running into everyone who is in her way, knocking this girl's muffin out of her hand and f***ing stepping on it. And then she tells Daphne to stay away from her.
I can't have lunch with you, Daphne. Not today, not ever.
It's Scooby-Doo 2002 all over again. The worst part of that movie is the fact that they're not friends. Like, get on with the thing we came here for. So Daphne dresses herself for the first time in her life, and her new friend Carol, unrelated to Carol from Scooby-Doo 2002, says purple and green don't go together. That's just not true, Carol. You dumb 26-year-old pretending to be a high schooler. Velma and Daphne get into a fight and get sent to the principal's office, who happens to be Velma's aunt with the exact opposite personality. She forces the girls to sit on the conflict resolution couch. The conflict resolution couch is one of the strangest set pieces I have ever seen. It's a glowing couch.
Drop it. Why are you acting like this?
As they argue, the couch pushes them closer and closer together. But what do you do if the kids just keep hitting each other? What if they're wrestlers? Proximity's gonna make it worse. Squeezed together, the girls break and start laughing all wholesomely. And then Velma says,
"Purple and green go awesome together."
What the fuck is going on? What's going on back there? So once again, the joke's on me because Velma's acting this way on purpose. Oh, you made me not like the first 20 minutes of your movie on purpose. So top students are offered an internship with Tobias Bloom and return to school as zombified versions of themselves who can only say one thing.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
The gag is so fucking annoying and then angersome, and then it just becomes the funniest thing ever because I am a 30-year-old man getting mad at a joke in one of 50 different Scooby-Doo movies.
I'm good. Relax, he's fine. Yo, Griff, heads up.
But this one doesn't have Scooby-Doo in it. They figure out Tobias hired Daphne's mom and made the students go missing so he could continue to innovate in the tech world by stealing ideas. This one kid is like, I like food, so Tobias makes a 3D food printer, which I'm not sure is stealing an idea at all. Everyone is hungry. Daphne and Velma discover some hallways behind the auditorium, which is where the disappearing lockers lead to. Suddenly, a cloaked figure appears. Another guy in a hood. We went from an animated mask and a black hood to a still mask and a black hood to just a hood and no mask at all, leading to a string of the worst attempts at classic Scooby-Doo gags I've ever seen. It's one after the other. They run back and forth on one shot repeated several times. Then Velma is just on the ground looking for her glasses. We do not see her fall over. She's just doing the I can't find my glasses pose. They run into a control room where they witness the student get sucked up a tube, like a check at the bank. Then they're confronted by the hooded figure, and it was Daphne's dad. He's just still stalking his daughter. He was on a robe with a hoverboard. He's not the villain, but they notice Tobias Bloom owns all the tech in the control room in the school he owns. So Daphne calls her mom at work only to watch her get kidnapped on FaceTime by Tobias. And they go to his office where Tobias Bloom unleashes a toy robot spider. Daphne goes to save her mom, just sitting over there. And Velma says she'll handle the spiders. Velma's final fight is a sight to behold. The robot spiders are shooting lasers and energy orbs at Velma. She drops the best jinkies of all time. Jinkies. But there's something about the last part of the movie that feels like they just gave up. She yells at the spiders, wiggles her finger taunting, come here. She karate chops a laser like SpongeBob cutting vegetables. And a second spider descends from the ceiling. It's like a spy movie now. She needs to get on the ground and go under the lasers. And 27 shots later, she poses like Chun-Li, victorious, while Daphne has finally walked the 10 steps forward to rescue her mom. You go, girl. Well, it turns out Tobias Bloom isn't real. He's a hologram made by Carol, the girl who hated Daphne's fit, and it turns out
I'm 26.
Wow. She's actually a 26-year-old woman pretending to be a high schooler. Little late. They did it. She's 26 years old for real in canon. And Tobias Bloom is a hologram who's the most popular male model in Japan because Daphne has a Ramune poster of him and he's just some guy. Doesn't look Japanese to me. Did Ramune sponsor this? So Carol invented better iPhones as a teenager and she's stayed in high school to steal youthful ideas ever since. She's arrested. They take out all of the tech in the school and that's how they solved the mystery before the mystery began. And even before the monsters were unleashed. Why did they make this? Why did they make a Scooby-Doo thing without Scooby-Doo? Just give them a real dog at this point. Make him small, call him Scrappy, give him love. The whole time I'm just waiting for Scooby-Doo. Even at the end, a mysterious group contacts Daphne and Velma because they successfully solved a mystery and I'm like, oh boy, here it comes, their Avengers Assemble moment, but it's just some random guy. Like, could you imagine if they were like getting hacked and stuff and then you just like hear this on the other end? Hey fellas, I heard that there are 2 new great mystery solvers out of Bloom Valley High. I say we contact them, form a gang, and then the mystery could begin. So happy Halloween, guys. You gotta tell me what your favorite Scooby-Doo movie is. Comment down below. Also, all of these cool ambient backgrounds are on YouTube. They're created by a channel called Mystery Supply Co. Go check them out. The links are below. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you do, I love ya. See ya.